What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So, of course, whenever a Nintendo Direct happens, you can count on one thing, and that is that afterwards, people will go online and they'll argue about if the Direct was any good or not, and that happened a lot yesterday, with the general consensus from what I could tell being disappointment and feeling underwhelmed by what was shown. And we're going to talk about the announcements here and a bit about that Direct. We're also going to be talking about why apparently I need new Joy-Con controllers, because naturally, Nintendo just had to show some awesome looking Zelda-themed controllers. And we're also going to talk about a new feature from Microsoft that will have your backwards compatible games playing a lot better on your Xbox Series S and your Xbox Series X. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if you're new to the Small Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're gonna start today with Nintendo and studio acquisitions. It's a question that comes up a lot. Why isn't Nintendo out there acquiring a bunch of different studios, and because they have $9 billion in the bank right now? Well, Furukawa talked with Nikkei in an interview actually about this. We're not just blindly acquiring companies because we want development resources. We don't think that simply expanding the scale of our business will really improve the value of the entertainment that Nintendo provides. Now, I think mostly what Nintendo likes to do is promote from within and hire on as they need new people within Nintendo, rather than just go out and buy a studio that they then have to take over all these employee salaries and try to really, I guess, adapt the culture of that studio with the internal studios at Nintendo and all of this. And I mean, you go out, you get a studio of hundreds of people like Microsoft is doing, and they have mentioned the different cultures at each studio that they are buying that they don't want to change up. And I just kind of think Nintendo has their own really mindset set up right now, their own culture within Nintendo, and they don't really feel like messing with that too much by going out and buying up studio after studio, because in their mind, it really wouldn't do a lot to produce higher quality games, maybe more games, but not higher quality games necessarily. Next Level Games was a little different because Next Level was looking to be acquired, and Nintendo has built a good relationship with them and didn't want to lose them. So that had to happen, whereas usually Nintendo would just contract out to them or other studios. Also, we've been getting some pretty cool Neo Geo Pocket color games heading over to the Switch. It's really neat to see that, because that system had some good games, but it was basically glossed over heavily at the time with the Game Boy. I mean, the analog stick on that thing is awesome. However, it does look like we may be getting a physical compilation. Check this out. We can actually see this image here that shows the Neo Geo Pocket Color Selection compilation. It's coming out on the Switch, and according to Nintendo Everything here, there are a couple games that are already expected to be on it. Fatal Fury First Contact, King of Fighters R2, Samurai Showdown 2, SNK Gals Fighters, SNK vs. Capcom, The Match of the Millennium, The Last Blade Beyond Destiny, and we're still waiting for more info from SNK about when we can buy it or what other games could be on there, maybe a special edition for the Switch. It's cool to see them take all these and preserve it on a cartridge, and I'll keep an eye out with SNK to see when they make the announcement for availability. Oh, and for all of you who were concerned about trying to import the Monster Hunter Rise Nintendo Switch system or the Pro Controller, which is what I'm interested in, it looks like it will be releasing stateside. We can see this here, where it does say Monster Hunter Rise Switch and Pro Controller coming to North America. This from Go Nintendo after seeing the slide in that Nintendo Direct, available March 26th. Of course, this will also have the digital code for Monster Hunter Rise and a deluxe kit DLC. The system looks pretty good. I mean, we just saw that red Nintendo Switch that changed out all of the like the entire shell with the dock and the Switch itself. So when I see these with like the etchings, is less impressive, I'll say, but the Pro Controller I think looks really good. I'm not a big Monster Hunter fan. I will check out Rise because it's interesting, it's different, but like the Pro Controller itself just looks really cool. Good to see. I won't have to worry about importing it from like Amazon, Japan, or anything there. Should just be available in stores unless they all sell out. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. We're starting right away with that 50-minute Nintendo Direct. There were a lot of games shown here. By my count, it was about 22 games shown here or given a release date. So a lot to go over. We're just going to start right away with the first announcement. We do have Pyra and Mythra joining Smash this in March. And I will say this, I'm sure, was underwhelming based on a lot of predictions for Smash characters from people. We're talking about like Crash Bandicoot or Dante. I at least threw Lloyd Irving out there. It's a little different, but I don't think anyone was guessing Pyra and Mythra joining Smash. I mean, I'm sure it could be a good character, a good fighter for the series here, but I didn't really see as much hype around this as I did for Sephiroth or Steve. I think we're just up to a level where we're expecting the internet to break anytime a Smash fighter is announced. So even if it's a good Smash fighter, if it's not like this crazy announcement, it almost gets kind of glossed over at times. Still though, cool to see Pyra and Mithra there for anyone who was hoping they would join. Fall Guys is coming to the Switch this summer. It makes a ton of sense. It's basically Mario Party Online. Outer Wilds is coming this summer. Famicom Detective Club coming May 14th. Samurai Warriors 5 is coming this summer. Legend of Mana, June 24th. Mario Golf Super Rush, June 25th. I am extremely excited about this announcement. First of all, I like Mario Golf. I played it a lot on the GameCube, but I played it quite a bit on the Game Boy, believe it or not, because their single player on that was kind of like an RPG, and I really wanted to see that happen eventually for a console Mario Golf. Looks like that will be the case here. They're going to have a full story mode that does have stat points and RPG elements, and you create like a Mii, it looks like, and you can go through the story that way and build them up. Really cool to see that. They also had this interesting mode called Speed Golf, where there are no turns. You just swing, hit your golf ball, and then you run to it as fast as you can, and I guess the first person to get it in the hole wins. So that could be an interesting multiplayer game mode there. And then also motion controls, which on the Wii, Tiger Woods was super popular, by the way, with motion controls. So who knows, maybe this kind of reinvigorates that. Anyway, look out for Mario Golf on June 25th. Should be a pretty good release for Nintendo over the summer there. Tales from the Borderlands, March 24th. Capcom Arcade Stadium, that is out today. Stubbs the Zombie, March 16th. No More Heroes 3 is August 27th. A little disappointed this fell so far into 2021, considering they had a 2020 release year on it originally. But still, this could give Suda some extra time to maybe polish it, work on it a bit. Sure, it looked good and interesting from what they showed there, so looking forward to this one, just a little further out than I thought it would be. Neon White Winter 2021, DC Superhero Girls Teen Power, June 4th, Plants vs. Zombies Battle for Neighborville, that's March 19th. This is the game with the Frostbite engine being moved to the Switch, which could open the door for other ports down the road. Maybe now that the Frostbite engine has been moved to the Switch, you could see Madden, for example, head there. Interesting stuff, at least just going beyond just the initial Plants vs. Zombies reveal here. Miitopia, May 21st. You know what? I saw a lot of people actually pretty excited for this. I didn't really get into Miitopia on the 3DS or anything like that, but for how much excitement there was around it, I was happy to see that get moved over. And then we have Super Mario items going to Animal Crossing in a free update February 25th. And you know what? I saw this, and when they first showed it, I was like, that's kind of cool. And then they showed more of the items. I think people are legitimately going to try to create Super Mario courses on an Animal Crossing island. They showed the flag, pipes, the question mark blocks, everything. So yes, I think eventually that will happen. It'll be really fun to see that. Project Triangle Strategy, this is out in 2022. This was a highlight of the Direct for me. This is really cool. I like Final Fantasy Tactics a lot. So we have the HD 2D. Remember, we saw this trademarked by Square. It is now a series as they announced it, and it looks like they're going to be tackling a tactics-based game, and it looks so good. Now, it's not coming to 2022, but a demo is available right now. I'm actually downloading it right now, and this seems to be following the same path that they did with Octopath Traveler, where they are doing demos and getting feedback for it to help change up the game and improve it. So good stuff there. Star Wars Hunters, somehow there was a 50-minute Nintendo Direct and they couldn't show us any gameplay of Star Wars Hunters, even though it's coming out in 2021. It's a third-person shooter from Zynga and Natural Motion. From what I could tell, Natural Motion made Backbreaker, which was that football game where whenever you kicked off, they played Here Comes the Boom. But Natural Motion has spent the last 10 years working on mobile games, so this will be their first console game in about a decade. Knockout City, that's May 21st. People were wondering if that's free to play or not. It appears to be $19.99, and there will be a closed beta actually here soon. So we'll see, I guess, gameplay for that from people in it maybe. Then we have World's End Club, that's May 28th. Hades is getting a physical release, that's March 19th. Ninja Gaiden Master Collection, June 10th, that will have Sigma 1, Sigma 2, and Ninja Gaiden 3. Rip everyone's Joy-Cons because Ninja Gaiden with Joy-Cons may be interesting. I would recommend using a Pro controller for this one, but I love the Ninja Gaiden series. Very happy to see a nice little collection here of Sigma 1, 2, and Ninja Gaiden 3. We'll be picking up that up day one. And then we have Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity Expansion Pass. Now they flashed the Expansion Pass card for like 5 seconds, so we'll quickly go over it. It looks like May 28th will be the purchase bonus. It'll be a newly added weapon for Link, newly added costume for Link. Wave 1 will be June 2021, an expanded roster, newly added weapon types, new challenges in the Royal Ancient Lab, newly added challenging enemies. Wave 2 will be available November, and that'll have new character vignettes, newly added stages, expanded roster, new battle skills for existing characters, all of this for $19.99. And then we have Saga Frontier Remastered, that is April 15th, and they closed out the Direct with Splatoon 3. Yes, that is coming 2022, and I have to say, it's really cool to see how far Splatoon has come in such a short amount of time. Remember, this was a new IP on the Wii U. This entire franchise is just 2 years older than ARMS, and people have a hard time remembering that ARMS even exists, that it's even a thing. And here's Splatoon getting to the level of the one more thing category that Nintendo closes out a Direct with, coming 2022, so we're still a ways off. I'm curious how they're going to make Splatoon 3 feel different from Splatoon 2, because I thought they were going to save Splatoon 3 for the next generation Switch, basically have a Splatoon game every generation, and then just build on top of it with DLC as they go through that generation. But now it looks like Splatoon 3 will be coming out next year, at least at this time, and it'll be interesting. They give us plenty of time to show more of this, and I'm sure it'll get its own Direct at some point to show it off. I'm just curious as to how they're going to do that, but big time announcement there, certainly. Now we're going to talk about The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD next, but looking at this Direct, I can see why some people may have been disappointed by this, but one thing I've noticed is every Nintendo Direct is going to be disappointed to at least someone, because Nintendo has so many franchises that we're looking forward to and hoping is in a Direct. They'll probably be disappointed if it's not there. I wanted Metroid, it's not there. I feel some disappointment, absolutely. But seeing some of these other games is pretty cool. Project Triangle Strategy, while it has a terrible name, looks really good. Maybe you're someone who's excited for Pyra and Mythra being added into Smash. Maybe you're someone who's excited for Mario Golf. The only thing I see here, though, however, is that we had 22 games or so announced. It was a lot of third party, a lot of quantity over quality, because we had 5 games from Nintendo, 3 of them were ports, one of which one game is new, that's Mario Golf. Then the other game that's brand new isn't coming out till 2022. So if you kind of look at it from Nintendo's side, yeah, I could see I'd be a little disappointed in that. So while you may have been disappointed in this Direct here, look on the bright side. It appears that Nintendo Directs are back. I don't think it's going to be another 500 days until we see the next Direct. In fact, I think there might be another one in, say, June or July to set up the back half of 2021, because we still don't really know what Nintendo's big holiday game is or any of that. And trust me, I think there's going to be quite a bit more Zelda-related stuff going forward in 2021. Speaking of Zelda, let's actually talk about Skyward Sword. So it was rumored, it was teased, we saw trademarks. Aonuma went up on stage at one point at a concert and even mentioned Skyward Sword for some reason that got the internet buzzing. And here we are finally with The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD officially announced for July 16th. And it looks like they figured out a way to get those motion controls out of there. From what I've seen with some of the press releases, looks like it's gonna be 60 frames per second, 1080p. And in order to remove those motion controls, which remember, they would have to do it if they want it to work on something like the Switch Lite, which you're probably not going to be able to do that since you don't have Joy-Cons necessarily attached to it to slide off of it. You're going to be using the right stick. And basically, you move the right stick up and that'll slice vertically, left and right, horizontally, and you can also have diagonal cuts as well, as they showed. Kind of reminds me a bit of Metal Gear Rising, actually, where you go into mode and you start kind of slicing all over the place. And this is really good because I played through Skyward Sword once and I really didn't feel like playing through it again because it was all tied to motion controls. And this was in 2011, which, all right, in 2006, the motion controls for the Wii was awesome. It was magical. It's like, wow, look, I'm actually bowling, kind of, right? But as time went on, the magic of the motion control for the Wii Remote turned into more the Wii Remote waggle, and the magic was just gone. So we got Skyward Sword in 2011 towards the end of the Wii's life, and we're kind of like, I mean, I guess I'll play Zelda like this. We really went through it because it was Zelda, right? So I'm very happy to hear that I can go back through it without the need for that. I might still try it just to see how it all works out with the Joy-Con, because they're talking about it kind of being a bit more accurate even there. But I think eventually I'll just go back to just using the buttons and the right stick and all of this. So I'll be excited to go back through Skyward Sword 10 years later and see how it is now. But of course, Nintendo couldn't let us off the hook here. They had to give us one other thing to buy. Those are Joy-Cons. They should be doing this a lot more than they are now, but we do have a special edition set of Zelda-themed Joy-Con controllers, one side being based on the Highland Shield and the other side being based on the Master Sword. Very excited to not be able to buy these because they'll be sold out everywhere. This is actually a set of Joy-Cons that I will try to pre-order somewhere because they look absolutely incredible. I don't need more Joy-Con controllers, but at the same time, I do need more Joy-Con controllers, so yeah, I'm gonna be picking these ones up. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about a feature from Microsoft that they have now rolled out for a set number of backwards compatible game, this being called FPS boost, or I guess frames per second boost. And the idea here is they can take a cap of like 30 frames per second and move it up to 60 frames, or maybe even go all the way up to 120 frames per second. Digital Foundry did an awesome video on this, by the way, and I'd recommend checking out a little bit of it here, where they compared a couple of different games, because currently FPS boost is available for 5 different games: Far Cry 4, Sniper Elite 4, UFC 4, Watch Dogs 2, and new Super Lucky's Tale. Some of these games will actually go from 30 to 60, but new Super Lucky's Tale actually goes up to 120 frames per second. And Microsoft has plans to enable the ability to toggle these options on and off, including auto HDR if you just want to turn that off, or this frames per second boost mode. And I mean, most of us will probably want to turn it on because some of the results that Digital Foundry was showing was incredible. I mean, we're seeing like smooth 60 frames per second in some of these different games, even on the Series S. There were some dips they showed, but it was significantly more smooth than what we were dealing with the Xbox One S and the Xbox One X. I like that Microsoft is also being very mindful of the idea of raising these frame rate limitations and just focusing on frame rate in general, because I know resolution is still the thing that really sells. You talk about 4K, you talk about 8K, people get really excited. You talk about like 60 frames per second or 120 frames per second, it's just not as marketable. But it is very appreciated to see this. And while it's only on 5 games now, and they're still talking about, oh, we don't really have a timeline for when like any one game is going to be seeing this, it does sound like something to keep an eye on, and I will be doing so and letting you guys know whenever we get more updates for different games. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're gonna take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked last minute prediction, is Breath of the Wild 2 part of today's Direct? Okay, so this poll changed. It was 60-40, now it's 38-62 that I'm reading it now, and 62% of you said no, so 2% of you shifted into the no category, probably after the Direct happened. But you know what? The 62% of you who voted for no were technically wrong, because Aonuma showed up on screen and mentioned the sequel to Breath of the Wild, or Breath of the Wild 2, so it was in fact part of the Nintendo Direct. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Robin saying, it's Metroid's anniversary too. I think a more accurate way of saying is, you'll never guess who's turning 35 this year. Oh, there is concern. I'm gonna be honest, there's concern that Nintendo just forgets about Metroid this year. It would really be rough if that happened, because like, just throw us Metroid Prime Trilogy. I mean, from all accounts, it's basically ready. It's just hanging out. And you know what? We've had the Bayonetta collection, the Bayonetta port collection for how long now? And we haven't heard anything about Bayonetta 3. So yeah, you can release Metroid Prime Trilogy and just get people up to speed on the Metroid Prime series. Because you know what? After when I was streaming yesterday, there were a lot of people who said they never played Metroid Prime. Like, they didn't have a GameCube, they didn't even play it on the Wii, Metroid Prime 3, or the trilogy on the Wii U. So yes, Nintendo, you have basically what's your most successful home console. It's gonna pass the Wii, sure, but like, you gotta get Metroid Prime on this thing soon, and if it's not Prime 4, get Trilogy moved over. Give people a solid year just to get through all of those Metroid Prime games, get up to speed on it, so we can have a really big push towards Metroid Prime 4 and give that game a chance. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Whether there's the Nintendo Direct, were you disappointed with it? Maybe you were really excited about some of those announcements. Let me know down below what you think of that. And then Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword coming to the Switch in July. Are you picking that one up? And are you excited to hear that the motion controls are now optional in the game? And then what do you think about Microsoft really focusing on backwards compatible even further, now removing the frame rate limitations from some of these games and making them run at a straight 60 frames or 120 frames per second on the Xbox Series systems? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.